So Susan, as you look to the future, what do you see as the greatest challenges in pediatric cancer?
Well, thank you, Steve. The greatest challenge continues to be getting the smartest drugs to be evaluated in kids with cancer. There are, there are. This is an issue that we have worked on since the founding of the children's schools. We worked to try to ensure that laws that pertain to research in children were renewed and reauthorized. And this hopefully was going to help children with cancer. But these were laws in the first decade of the 21st century that were important for us to support, to be the voice of kids with cancer in the larger pediatric community. As we sat at the tables and said, don't forget about our children. One of these pieces of legislation gives companies a reward if they do pediatric studies. We understood very early on that the shape of the reward that was available and the absence of other rewards or incentives were insufficient to interest companies in investing in pediatric oncology applications of the new drugs. Okay. And the pediatric cancer is as an aggregate is a rare disease. There are multiple rare diseases. Just a few hundred kids a year who are affected by all these subdivisions of disease, for example. And so there's little reason for companies to spend enormous amounts of money to screen and evaluate and try to conduct clinical evaluation of drugs where the market is so small and they've invested a lot of money. And this is a persistent problem to this day. So the two pieces of legislation that we worked on for kids in general in the first decade, one had an incentive and the other one had a requirement that companies study drugs in kids if the same disease occurred in children and adults. Well, cancers in kids are different. And so we worked, starting with Congress and with the FDA and with leaders in the children's oncology group, to try to change that law so that, starting in about 2009, 2010, to try to change the law that required companies to do studies in kids, but to require the companies to do studies in kids with cancer, to evaluate their new drugs in development for adults, for kids with cancer. And we worked on that starting very actively in 2011, 2012. And over the next 5 years, we worked hard with other groups, in particular the Alliance for Childhood Cancer and its members, to try to get Congress to pass something that would require companies to evaluate their new drugs in development in children with cancer. To require them, there was no incentive involved. And this is now called the RACE Act, and was implemented a year ago in August. And we will wait and see how effective it is. But we do know that companies, directly from the FDA, that companies are actively responding because they believe they're required to do this. And hopefully, this will shorten the time between the first time that it's really evaluated in adults and the time that a drug is, that's scientifically appropriate, of course, is evaluated in kids. Right now, it can take as long as 9 years to have that happen, which is relatively short compared to where it was in the year 2000, 2005. But still, to have a gap of of that length is unacceptable. Now, we are talking about drugs that are in development for adults, where the biology of the cancer in adults can be similar to that, to lesions that are found in childhood cancer, so that it's reasonable, scientifically reasonable, to test a drug in development for adults and kids. Right now, there is no mechanism to really encourage companies to develop any agent where the drug is solely used in a childhood cancer, where the population is so small and there's no associated adult indication. And that's a problem that needs to be met in future years through rewards, through incentives, and through